Hello friends, this is the second lecture of this chapter, products and function. In our first lecture, we have discussed some of the points from this chapter, that is meaning of production, and we understood production function. After that, we have discussed third, fourth point, and in the fourth point, we understood that after a certain point of number, when we increased our units of labor, then there will be negative total production, and also we will get negative marginal product and average product. So guys, we understood these graphical diagram also, and now we will start this lecture from explanation of the law. So guys, as we know that in this law there are three different stages. In the beginning, as we increase the number of labors, we will get increased production, we will get increased marginal rate of return, and we also will get increased average return. But guys, as we increase the number of units on and on, then there will be a point, at point we will get, we can say, increased number of unit at, we can say, negative rate of marginal return and average return. And then also again we will increase our number of units, or we can say number of labors, then there will be a time when we will get negative total production as well as marginal and the average return. So guys, this is how we know the law. Now we need to see the explanation of the law as well. So in the explanation of the law, we will read, in the beginning, the quantity of fixed factor is abundant relative to the quantity of variable factor. Hence, as we increase the quantity of variable factor, that is labor, fixed factor is utilized more intensively and effectively. Consequently, output increases in an increasing rate, and marginal production also increases. Here, in the second point, once the point is reached where the amount of variable factor is sufficient to ensure more efficient utilization of the fixed factor, additional units of the variable factor will less and less of the fixed factor to work with. In other words, now variable factor is not utilized fully and efficiently. Therefore, in the second stage, output increases at the diminishing rate. That is, marginal production will be diminishes, or we can say decreases. In the third stage, when variable factor is so abundant that its different units, that is worker, obstruct one another in production process, output diminishes, that is marginal production is negative. And in the as we can see uh, this situation in above diagram as well as in the graphical diagram also. Now, according to John Robinson, the law of variable proportions should be attributed to imperfect substitutability of factors of production. Land is a scarce factor and no other factor can be used in place of land. Land has no substitute. That is why we cannot maintain a proper proportion among the factors of production. And guys, now we'll see assumptions of the law. There are certain assumptions of the law. The law of variable proportion is based on the following assumption. So guys, there are certain assumptions to prove the variable proportions. Let's see. The first one is, the first assumption is that one of the factors of the production is fixed or constant. In our example, we have taken a fixed amount of land and assume that the farmer applies the successive units of labor on this plot of land. The result is that the output increases but at a diminishing rate after a certain stage. If, however, additional units of labor are used on additional plots of the land, the law may not apply. So guys, to prove this law, there must have one variable as a fixed variable. Now, second assumption is that all the different units of variable factor in our example labors are identical or homogeneous. It is assumed that all the units of labor are equally efficient. And the third assumption is, the law is also based on the assumption that there are no improvements in the art or methods of cultivation. So guys, again there is a point of technology. So there will not be change in any technology. Production techniques remains the same. If, however, improved methods of cultivation, the form of better implements or improved seeds or fertilizer are used, the law may not operate. Instead of diminishing returns, there may be increasing returns. And lastly, the law also assumes that it should be possible to change the combination of the factors of production by using a little or less, a little more of one of the other factor. The law will not apply to cases where the combination of the factors is fixed and cannot be altered. So guys, this law says that when you increase any one variable exceeding the limit, or we can say beyond a certain point, then you will get negative total production, negative marginal return, or we can say negative marginal production and negative average production. So guys, there are certain assumptions there must be there to prove the law accurately. And now we will see law of diminishing marginal return. Guys, you need to tick mark this point, and this is the most important point for your exam also. So guys, let we read the point and then have explanation of this. In the past, the law of variable proportion was described as the law of diminishing marginal return, or we can say diminishing return. This is because the stage of diminishing marginal product is more predominant in the operation of the law of variable proportion. It is therefore necessary to focus on some significant aspect of the diminishing returns. Guys, the law of diminishing returns is nothing but a generalization drawn from the experience of farmers. Indeed, a Scottish farmer is said to have been the first to state this law. Every experienced farmer knows that he cannot raise an unlimited amount of produce profitability from 1 acre of land. As he cultivates a particular plot of land more intensively by applying more and more units of labor and capital, he will find that after a certain stage, the produce does not increase in the same proportion. Thus, for the example, if he doubles the units of labor and capital, at first the total produce may be doubled or even more than double. But if he does this for the second or third time, the total produce, or we can say the total production, will not be double. It will less than double. In other words, the returns from the land after a certain point do not increase in the same proportion as compared to the expenditure incurred. That is, the returns increases but at a diminishing rate. This is the essence of the law of diminishing returns. So guys, you need to understand this. So here we are given the example of farmer, that when farmer increases the units of labor, he will get more, or we can say increased production. But after a certain point, when he increases labor units, he will get more production but at a decreasing rate. So guys, this is what the diminishing marginal return, or we can say diminishing return of the production. Marshall stated this law as follows: an increase in the capital and labor applied in the cultivation of land causes in general less than proportionate increase in the amount of produce raised, unless it happens to coincide with an improvement in the art of agriculture. So guys, this is what the law says according to the Marshall. Now we have given the explanation of the law. The above statement of the law makes 2 points very clear. So guys, based on the Marshall's statement, we are given the basic explanation of this. Let's read. The phrase in general is more important. It emphasizes means focus on. It emphasizes the point that in ordinary course of time, these tendencies should operate, but there may be certain cases where the successive units of labor and capital may give proportionately increasing returns, but this would not falsify the law. The law states that beyond a certain point, here we need to focus on beyond a certain point or after certain stage in the cultivation of land has been reached, every further increase in the amount of labor and capital applied to its produce is less than the proportionate return. In other words, it is only after a certain stage that the successive doses of labors and capital give diminishing returns. It should be remembered that the law refers not to the total produce but to the additional or marginal produce. What is meant is not that the total returns from the land diminish, but that the additional returns received as the result of the additional expenditure is less than the proportionate to it. It is in this sense that the law of diminishing returns may be compared with the law of diminishing utility. While the basis of the latter is human nature, the basis of the former is physical nature. So guys, we need to understand that when we increase our labor and capital for first time, we will get highly increased production, and we will also get highly increased marginal rate of production and average production. But when we increase our labor and capital for the second time, we will definitely get increased production but at a lower marginal production compared to first time. And when again we increase our labor for the third time, we will get increased production, but again there will be low rate of marginal production. So guys, when we compared our first time increment with second and third time, then we can get the clear idea about the diminishing production. So this is how the concept and the law works. Secondly, the phrase unless it happens to coincide with an improvement in the art of agriculture. What does this statement says? It is equally important. This implies that of improvement are introduced in the method of cultivation. For example, again we need to focus on this example. For example, use of improved techniques of cultivation, application of improved seeds, fertilizer, and other inputs, the tendency to diminishing returns will not operate. But if all things remains the same and no improvements are introduced in the methods of cultivation, the law will hold good. So guys, we need to understand that when the technology changes, this law doesn't work. So this is an assumption that we need to understand, that when the technology will not change, when one of the factors will remain constant, and when there will be no change in the technology for the cultivation of the land, for the seeds and other production method, then and then this law works. So according to Marshall, we need to confirm these 2 points to prove the law as accurate as possible. So guys, now we will see the illustration of the law. So after we have understood the explanation of the law, we will start the illustration of the law of diminishing return can be illustrated as follows. Let's see under it. Let us suppose that a farmer has a plot of land worth 10 acres. Guys, farmer has a plot of land worth 10 acres. He is interested in increasing the production from his plot of land, and with this and in view, he applies more and more units of labor and capital on the same plot of land. Let us assume that the cost of one unit of labor and capital is rupees 1000. This then can be illustrated below. So guys, we need to focus on this example to understand this concept very clear. So guys, here in this table, we are given area of land that is constant 10 acres. Now units of labor and capital. And we also know the price. We also know the price, or we can say cost of labor and capital, that is 1000 for 1 unit. And the total production, average production and marginal production we are given in quintals, doesn't matter it. So the plot of land is 10 acres, and when a farmer apply 1 unit of labor and capital, he will get 10 unit of production, and there will be 10 unit of average production, and there will be 10 unit of marginal production. Now guys, when the unit of labor and capital increased from 1 to 2, means when a farmer decided to increase the units of labor and capital, there will be increase in the total production, there will be increase in the average production, and there will be increase in the marginal production. So guys, here you can see by increasing 1 unit of labor and capital, there will be increment in the increment of 2 unit in the marginal production. After 2, when farmer decide to increase the number of, or we can say units of labor and capital from 2 to 3, so there will be increase in the total production from 22 to 36. And also there will be increase in the average production from 11 to 12. So we can see here the increment is constant, and again there will be increment in the marginal production from 12 to 14. So again there will be increment in the marginal production as a 2. Now guys, when farmer decides to increase the units of labor and capital from 3 to 4, there will be increment in the total production from 36 to 50. And again there will be increment in the average production from 12 to 12.5. So guys, here when he increased from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, increment in the average production was 1 unit. But after a certain point, when he increased units of labor and capital from 3 to 4, there will be an increment is only 0.5 in average production. And also we can say that the marginal production remains constant. So when again the farmer increase his units of labor and capital from 4 to 5, there will be increment in the total production from 50 to 61. And again we can say it is diminishing, because again we only get the increment as 0. Oh, sorry, we are getting negative average production, and also we are getting negative marginal production, or we can say diminishing. And when again we increase from 5 to 6, there will be increase in the production. So guys, we are getting increment in the total production but at diminishing returns. So guys, here we get negative, or not we cannot say negative, it is diminishing. So average production will be 11.3, and the marginal production will also be at diminishing and will be 7. So we can say for the beginning, in the beginning of the stage, there will be increase in the production and average production and marginal production, but after a certain point there will be diminishing, or we can say decreasing the average production and marginal production. So guys, this is what the law says, and we will understand this concept from this diagram, that in the figure 3 we are given labor and capital on x-axis and we are given marginal output on y-axis, and here this is what the graph has been made up. So from 1 unit of labor and capital, there will be the production is given here, and when as we increase the units of labor and capital, our graph will become like this. So after a certain point, there will be constant, we can say marginal production and average production, and again when we exceeded the limit of a certain point, there will be decreasing or diminishing returns of production. So this is how the law says, and we are given the explanation of law here. So guys, we will read. It should however be noted once again, in the law of diminishing return does not state that the total produce will diminish. Total produce increases, as will be seen from the table above. After a certain point, it increases only at a continuously diminishing rate. It is case of diminishing increment. And guys, we will also see the third point, causes of the operation of the low diminishing return. It is a well-known fact that law of diminishing returns applies earlier in agriculture than in other industries. This is because of following reasons. So guys, why this law are properly suitable in agriculture sector? Why does it apply in agriculture sector first and then other industries? So guys, here are some of the reasons for that. In agricultural, land is the most important factor of production. We have already seen that the supply of land is fixed and limited. It cannot be increased. The result is that the addition of more and more units of labor and capital to a fixed supply of land after a certain stage will not result in a proportionate increase in production. In order to bring about a proportionate increase in production, it becomes necessary to increase proportionately the supply of all the factors of production. But land being a scarce factor of production, its supply cannot be increased. Therefore, a mere increase in the supply of the labor and capital to a fixed supply of land results in diminishing increment after a certain point. So guys, when you uh, increase your labors from a certain point, when you cross the limit of a certain point to increase your you increase the units of labor and capital, there will be you will definitely get increase in the total production but at a diminishing returns of average and marginal production. Agriculture depends upon nature to a much greater extent than manufacturing industries. Natural factors like weather and climatic conditions, famine, floods, locusts, hailstorms, etc., play a very important part in agricultural production. It may also be pointed out that, in spite of a rapid advance in science and technology, it has not been possible for the man to completely conquer nature. This being so, whenever nature does not cooperate in agricultural production, the law of diminishing returns tends to operate. And guys, here we are given so many reasons that why this law is perfectly suitable in agricultural sector than the other industries. Though we'll read the scope for the use of machinery and division of labor is rather limited in agriculture as compared to industries. Agriculture has been described as more of a labor intensive activity than capital intensive and has the tendency to diminishing returns operate soon in this field. Effective supervision over the different productive operation as is possible in industries is not possible in agriculture because of a scattered nature of the work. When a plot of land is cultivated over and over again, its fertility gets exhausted. The result is that the productivity of land begins to diminish and hence the tendency to diminishing returns. And guys, we are given the assumption of this law also. We will read it. The first assumption is that one of the factor of production is fixed or constant. So guys, as we know the assumptions of law very well, that one of the factor must be constant, as we have seen in this example that the land is constant. So this is one of the example, or sorry, this is one of the assumptions that one of the factor of production will need to be constant. And the second assumption is that all the different units of variable factor in our example, labor and capital, are identical or homogeneous. It is assumed that all the units of labor and capital are equally efficient. And third assumption is the law is also based on the assumptions that there are no improvements in the art or methods of cultivation. So guys, techniques and the technology must be the same. Then last assumptions, that the law also assumes that it should be possible to change the combination of the factor of production by using a little or less or little more of little one of or sorry or little more of one or other factor. The law will not apply the cases where the combination of the factor is fixed and cannot be altered. So guys, it must not be fixed and altered. So guys, this is what the assumptions of the law all about, and now we will move further to the next point, that is law as applied to other productive activities. So guys, in which uh, in which productive activities we can apply this law except the agricultural sector. So in mining sector, in building of activity sector, and in fishing sector, and in manufacturing industries we can apply this law as well. So guys, we will see it one by one, that the diminishing return of production law can be applied in this kind of industries. The first one is mining industry. The law of diminishing return will operate in the mining industry sooner or later if there is no improvement in the arts of mining. Apart from the fact that the deposits in the mine, we can say coal, iron, ore, etc., are likely to get exhausted. It becomes necessary after a certain state to go deeper and deeper into the bowels of the earth to get minerals, which means an increase in the cost of production. As the mines are worked deeper, the under structure is likely to be stronger, better. Lightning and arising system is to be introduced. More wages have to be paid to the workers, for they have now go too deep into the mines. All this results in an increasing cost and hence a tendency to diminishing returns. So guys, this is how this law will be useful and will work in uh, this mining industry. Now we will see building activity, how this law will apply in the building activity. The law applies to building activity as well. As the landlord goes on adding more and more storage to a building, his cost for the upper storage after a certain stage increases, and the gain from building the additional storage tends to diminish. This is because greater facilities and amenities in the form of, say, lifts, water pipes, ventilation, electric wires, etc., are to be provided on the upper flats, and storage to induce people to stay there. All this means an increase in cost. Besides, as more and more storage are built, the cost of lifting goods and material also rises, and there are also difficulties of supervision. All this results in tendency to diminishing return. So, guys, as we increase the number of storage in a building, there will be higher cost according to the increment in the storage. So this is how this diminishing returns law work in building of activity. Now guys, we will see in fishing industries. The law is applicable to fishing as well. In river fisheries, for example, there is a limit to increase returns from an increasing application of labor and capital. The available supply of fish, like the fertility of land, is limited, and hence the so we can say hence a stage comes after which an increase in the supply of labor and capital would given a diminishing rate of increase in the catch of the fish. Even in sea fisheries, the law will apply sooner or later, as more investment in the form of improved boats, nets, etc. will have to be made to catch more fish. The return then may not be in proportion to the expenditure occurred. So, guys, in fishing industries, uh, when we increase the facilities by giving a high quality boats and all, so our cost will be increased, but our supply of fish will might not be increased. And in manufacturing industry also, these diminishing returns, law of diminishing returns works. Man plays an important part by uh, inventions, research, etc. He may combat nature's tendency to diminishing returns, but ultimately the law must apply. Mankind cannot produce an ultimated amount of kilo any more than the unlimited amount of wheat. Clearly, if the law did not apply to industry, the whole of the supply of a given article could be produced in one factory merely by additions to labor employed. Alternatively, labor force could be kept constant and capital additions could be made. By manufacturer knows that such expansion is profitable only up to a certain point. So guys, in the manufacturing industries, the law of diminishing returns also work as well. So guys, this is how the law of diminishing returns works in different industries, and how we can explain this point in the exam as well. So this is what all about the applications of this law in different industries. So guys, that's it for today in this lecture. Now we'll come up with new part of this chapter in new lecture. Goodbye.